I'm gonna be honest with you. Self-publishing books, it can be hard. It can be hard on you mentally. It can be hard on you emotionally. But that said, self-publishing success is 100% possible. And it's not as hard to get as you may think. So before you think about giving up, you're not seeing the numbers that you want, you're not seeing the sales that you want. Before you think about giving up, watch this video because I'm gonna cover 10 tips for self-publishing success. Now with that, let's get started. Tip number 1 is to find your why. Why are you creating books? Why are you selling books? And I don't just mean the generic, because I want to be a published author, or because I want to make money, I want to sell books. No, you have to go deeper than that, because at the surface, that's not going to be enough to keep you going when times do get hard. So you need to find your real, true why. So for example, for me, if someone had asked me, Keith, why do you create books? Why do you sell books? At first I would say something like, well, I like writing books. Books are in my head. Okay, great. But if they're just in your head and you're writing them, why do you want to sell them? Why not just keep them in a book that you see yourself? Well, because I want to share it with the world. Well, why do you want to share it with the world? And again, don't say to make money, because you can make money a million other ways. At the core, why I create books and why I sell books is because I remember how I felt the first time I read a book that truly touched me, that truly I was absorbed into. And I want others to feel that way about my book. That's why I write books. That's why I sell them. Not for the money, although that's nice. It's to connect with others and to have someone else feel that, just that draw, that desire to read this book, for someone to fall in love with something that I created. Tip number 2 is to focus on one business at a time. And what I mean by that is, are you publishing books, but then you're also doing merch by Amazon, and then you're also, selling other things on Etsy? If you spread yourself out too thin and you try to become a jack of all trades, you'll become a master of none. You need to focus on one particular business at a time. Now, granted, each of these in the end may be all tied into one overall business, but you need to start seeing success in one of them before you branch off into others. So you may say, Keith, I hear you talk about on the channel how, you do merch by Amazon and you do these other things. I do, but I didn't start doing those until I started seeing success with my book publishing. And so the reason why I branch off into courses and merch and things like that all ties into my overall business. But before you start working on all the other things, focus on just one business at a time. So in this case, it's going to be your book business. Focus on your book business, whatever that means, whatever books you create. I'm not saying you have to focus on just one genre. You don't, but you want to make sure that you focus on one business at a time. That way you're giving all of your mental energy and physical energy to the same thing. So you have the same goal at the end of the tunnel. By doing that, you have a much greater chance of seeing success with that business. And then again, once you start seeing success with that, then you can branch off into other aspects. Tip number 3, and this is a hard one, is set realistic, attainable goals. And I mean, be specific, not just, I want to make money. Great. Who doesn't want to make money? How much do you want to make? How much do you need to make? And then, is that something realistic? I want to make $1 million. Realistically, I'm not going to make $1 million my first year publishing books. Probably not even my, second, third, fourth, maybe not even my 5th year. So you need to set realistic, attainable goals. When you set unrealistic goals, then it becomes even harder to stick with it, because one, you're going to get a lot more deterred when you're not seeing big money come in to begin with. And I'm just using money as an example. It may be your goal may be, I want to sell 1,000 copies of my book. Well, that's great. You're probably not going to sell those in the first month. So again, setting realistic, attainable goals. When you do that, then things start to flow a little bit easier. You don't get as frustrated or just worn out and deterred as you would when you set these unrealistic expectations. Having realistic, attainable goals And I always suggest that you have big goals, bigger goals, but still attainable, maybe a 5-year goal or a 10-year goal. And then also, how do you accomplish that? Well, you do that by breaking it down into smaller, more immediate goals. So if you have overall 5-year goal, what's your 1-year goal? What is your, goal for each month to get you to that 1-year goal, to get you to that 5-year goal? Again, making and writing them all down, sharing them with others. That's great, but they need to make sure that they're realistic and that they're attainable. Not super easy, because then you're not going to have any drive, but they need to be realistic and have them be as specific as you can. The next tip is related to that, and that is reward yourself for reaching your goals. It's kind of like gamifying it, Making it fun means you're more likely to stick with it. And because you're giving yourself little rewards, and it could be, a little Hershey kiss, it could be, literally a pat on your back, it can be a spa day, whatever it means to you, whatever is going to help you stick with it. It could be as simple as putting a dollar bill in, this envelope. And then at the end of the year, you can see how much you've achieved by seeing how many dollar bills are in there, or at the end of the week, whatever you need to do. And again, by doing that, you're way more likely to stick with it. And it's going to help your business to continuously get better, to continuously get to that next level, because you've got goals set, you've got realistic, attainable goals, and you're rewarding yourself every time you achieve these different steps. Okay, this next tip, it's going to be a hard one. It's going to be a hard one for a lot of you, and it's a hard one for me when I learned this the hard way. So hopefully you'll learn it from me, so you can get beyond it. And that is to stop learning your time away. And what I mean by that is, it's great to research. It's great to, whether you're researching the topic of your book, you're researching the book industry, watching my channel and other people's channels on learning about self-publishing. But you can't make money from your book if you're still researching. At some point, you need to stop the researching and start the writing, start the creation if it's a low content, no content book. I'm not saying that learning is not important. Obviously it is, but the best way to learn and make money is by doing it. So if you're just now starting out, ground zero, okay, then absolutely, learn how to upload, learn, how to format your interiors, learn all, how to write better, but don't learn your time away. The next one is one that I really think is the main reason, from what I've heard from other people, the main reason why people quit when it comes to self-publishing books. And they have this mentality, they still have this whole hourly wage mentality, and you need to steer away from the hourly wage mentality, okay? Don't do the math. For example, for me, it took me 10 hours to make my very first book, and I made about $20 in the first month that I sold. So if I did the math, then that means I made like $2 an hour. Well, that's definitely going to be a deterrent, and people are going to be like, well, there's no sense in me doing this. But again, this is not the way you should be thinking, okay? These are, they call this passive income for a reason, because you create it one time and then it's out there forever. So yes, if you look at it just mathematically, just off, out of what I put in versus what I got back in that first month, then yes, I made $2 for every hour that I spent working on it. But 8 years later, I'm still making money from that book. Are you still making money from the work that you did 8 years ago? Probably not. You probably got paid for the hour that you put in, or the 40 hours you put in for that week. And that's it. You're not getting paid for that again, but you are when you're self-publishing books. So again, in order to better your chances of not quitting and not getting these negative thoughts in your head, steer away from the hourly wage mentality. That is not this business model. You didn't go into the self-publishing business. You don't want to start a business of your own and create this money coming in. You didn't want to start another job, right? You didn't want to do another hourly job. The whole point is that we're creating these things so we don't have to work the 9 to 5s. We don't have to put in 40 hours a week. So if that's the goal, then why are we still keeping that mentality of how much I made an hour? Don't. That's not what this is about. Again, we create it now, and we're going to profit from it for as long as it's on the internet. The next tip is to create multiple streams of income. Now, I know I said earlier to focus on one business, right? And I'm not going against that, okay? What I'm talking about is if you have a written book, then make an ebook version of it, a paperback, a hardcover. If it makes sense, an audiobook. These are 4 different streams of income, all from the same one content that you created. Now, if you do no content, low content books, puzzle books, things like that, then obviously you can't necessarily do ebooks, although you can sell them as digital products on something like Etsy, but you can still do something like a paperback and a hardcover version of it. Or if you want to put it up on Lulu, you can do a spiral bound version of it. And again, these are all different streams of income. People want to consume their content in different ways. So why not give them different opportunities, every opportunity that you can to get a sale from that one thing that you created. Tip number 8 is to reinvest in your business. Anybody, any successful business owner, whether it's self-publishing or anything else, they reinvest in their business. Think of it as this is a business. It's not a lemonade stand. A lemonade stand, if you ever had a lemonade stand as a kid, or you've got kids and they've had them, what happens is the kid, sells the lemonade, and then they take that money and they go and they spend it, right? That's it. That's, they create it, they make the money, and they spend it. That's a lemonade stand. That's not a business. If you want to be successful in any business, then you need to reinvest back into your business. Now, how much you reinvest back in your business is going to depend completely on what's realistic for you and your business. Ideally, if you can invest, 80%, if not more, of what you make back into it, then that's going to allow you to, run ads. It's going to allow you to, maybe create, get better book covers done, whatever, get formatted better, get new software, whatever. If you can invest 80% or more, again, that's ideal. But, I know if, this may be your only stream of income now, maybe you got laid off or you quit your job or whatever, and this is all you have, then it will be harder to invest, money back into it. But I do challenge you that if you want to be successful long-term in self-publishing to the point where you can quit your day job or whatever, then you really need to reinvest as much as you can back into your business. Okay, tip number 9 is something that it took me forever to learn. And it's really the only way, in my opinion, that you can, if you ever find yourself self-publishing books and you find yourself that, I'm making some money, but I just can't seem to get I'm on the plateau. I can't seem to get that next level. I'm being hampered. I just can't get any more done. The biggest reason for that is probably that you're trying to do it all yourself. And it was the hardest thing for me to do was to outsource what you can. Outsource what you can, depending on obviously your finances, how much money's coming in. This goes back to the whole reinvesting. You reinvest, then you can, instead of creating the covers yourself, you can hire someone to create the covers. Instead of creating the A+ content, you can hire someone to do that. What you really want to do is you want to hire someone, outsource to someone the things that either you're not good at or the things that you don't enjoy doing or that take you too long to do. Those are the 3 main things that I've done to outsource that have drastically allowed me to not just double, but triple, quadruple the amount of not just sales that I get, but just what I can create. You can create more faster if you do what you're good at and let others do the rest. Now I've got one more tip, and then I got a bonus tip for you, but I do want to know if you've gotten this far. Let me know down in the comments if you're feeling what I'm throwing down here. If any of these things are resonating with you. Also, if you like this video, give that thumbs up a smashy. It gives me that nice warm fuzzy feeling, and it lets YouTube know to share this with other self-publishers or maybe people who are looking into it, but they don't believe that you can get the success that a lot of us are saying you can, and we're seeing ourselves. So if you really do think this is good quality content that should be shared with others, let YouTube know by hitting that thumbs up. Tip number 10 is to stick with it even when it sucks. Hashtag embrace the suck, if you will. There's just like with any business, it's going to be hard. There are going to be hard times. You're going to get those 1-star reviews that just absolutely are like a punch to the gut. That, especially the first few you get, especially if it's a book that you've just poured your heart and soul out into, and you've been working on it for years or whatever. It sucks, but you got to stick with it. Okay. You will never, no one in any business or in life is going to ever sees success if they quit. And the biggest thing, and I talked about this earlier, other reasons why I've seen people quit, is I've always said, and I've said it numerous times on this channel, that the biggest difference between people who have seen self-publishing success and those who have not is that the ones that have not quit before they got to that point. We don't know. Everybody's journey is different. If it took, person number one, it took them a year to start making $1,000 a month. Person number two might get it done in, start making $1,000 a month their first month. You never know. It depends on the books that you put out, the niches that you're in, all of that. So you can't compare yourself to anyone else. And because of that, you got to stick with it even when it sucks. So those were the 10 tips to self-publishing success that I wanted to share today. Like I promised you, I do have one. It's kind of a bonus tip, if you want to call it that, and that is to create your next book. I know it sounds super cheesy and super lame, but that really is what it is. The chances of you seeing self-publishing success with book one is honestly slim. It's slim. I'm just in 2014, it was a lot easier. There was a lot less competition, but there, with more channels out there and more software and AI, it's so much easier for people to jump in this, which means there's more competition. That doesn't mean that you can't see self-publishing success, but it means it's probably not going to happen with only one book. It might. And if it does, I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to get you on the channel. We'll talk about it, okay? But for most of the people out there, self-publishing success is going to come from having multiple books, having multiple things that you create. The more you create, as long as it's good quality, the better your chances of getting discovered and getting seen and getting sales. And getting sales and then getting reviews. Again, a bit of it comes with quantity. But nothing is more important than the quality, because if you put out a bunch of garbage books, then you're going to get terrible reviews. There's a good chance that KDP might just, close your account depending on how bad everything is. And so quality is absolutely number one, but chances are you are going to have to put out more books. And so don't compare yourself, again, like I said, don't compare yourself to others. Person over here has, well, they're making $10,000 a month and they only have 10 books out. And I've got 20 books out and I'm not even making half of that. Again, it comes down to the niches. It comes down to the keywords, the categories. There's so, the quality, it also comes down to the number of reviews you have. And so, all these things tie into it. But again, taking into consideration the 10 tips that I gave you, and then this one to create your next book, and then you just repeat it. And again, if you do that, if you stick with it, I'm telling you, you will see self-publishing success. Now, one of the things that you can do that can really help your book stand out is to get book awards. And it may seem like book awards are difficult or almost impossible. No, I've even gotten book awards on puzzle books, okay? Activity books. So I have a series, it's like 3 videos, all working with the fine folks over at Book Award Pro. You can check that series out right here. Now, if you've already seen that, or maybe you're not ready for that yet, remember I did say that you do want to look into outsourcing? Well, I actually have used Fiverr numerous times for outsourcing, and here's some videos all about that. So I'd love to see you in one of these sets. And as always, remember to write right.